Yeah, welcome back. Before the break, we took a look at a number of Australians sleeping rough on the streets each night and the great work of Blanket Patrol to help provide some warmth this winter.
Yes, but rough sleepers are just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to homelessness. It can be a vicious cycle with many people stuck and not knowing how to get out. And here to tell us more, welcome Sharon Mamo and your beautiful daughter Montana. Hello.
Hello.
Welcome, guys. Guys, first up, can I just ask you a little bit about your personal experience with homelessness?
Sure. So for Montana and I, we were one of the 93% of the invisible or the hidden homeless that you don't really see. So, you know, when we're out in the streets and we see the 7% of homeless, they're the people that are sleeping rough. As you mentioned earlier, it's women and children who are often fleeing from domestic violence that are in the cohort that's increasing, and so that for us was a similar experience. We arrived home one day to find that the locks on our doors had been changed, and we had no home, and so from there we went and moved to a caravan, and then after that there was some couch surfing with family. And it was devastating. You know, to be homeless is one thing, but to be homeless with your child, teenage daughter, was just absolutely devastating. The feeling of rejection, hopelessness, yeah, it just really throws you.
So Montana, you were going to school at this time.
Yes.
And experiencing homelessness.
Yes.
How was that?
It was tough. It was, it was hard to concentrate on schooling and concentrate on friends. I actually remember sitting in health class and the topic of the class was homelessness, and they were really talking about the stigma and discrimination that homeless people face. So, you know, things like they're just lazy, they can just get a job, you know, they're not worth your help sort of thing, like just talking about that. And I just, in that moment, realised that I wasn't going to speak up, and I kept it hidden.
Can we strip it back a little bit?
Yeah.
And basically, homelessness means someone who doesn't have a suitable or secure form of accommodation. What does that exactly mean for many people?
For many people, that means not having a roof over their head, not a stable roof over their head, so they're either not able to pay rent or don't have a mortgage or don't have anybody that they can move in with and rent with, so there isn't any security from day to day. It's not knowing where you're going to live next week.
So Montana, having experienced that in your most formative years, what has that done for the woman that you are today?
Yeah, so if I think back to sort of my experiences while homeless, there were a lot of negative sort of results, you know, low self-worth, severe anxiety, because you're always having to have your guard up, thinking that something bad was going to happen again. Especially being a teenager, your sort of teenage years are stripped and you're sort of forced to become an adult really quickly. But in saying that, it's made me the woman who I am and the resilience that I do have now, so yeah.
Well, if the end result is how you present yourself today, Montana, you are sensational. It's an incredible story to share. Hey, Sharon, can I ask you about, you know, a lot of people have got a picture of what homelessness means. Why do people end up homeless?
So definitely, you know, a lack of affordable housing. And that is increasing, and that's all over Australia, not just in Melbourne. Inability to gain and sustain employment, mental health issues, substance issues, disability within the home, and of course, you know, that's intellectual disability and medical disability. However, they're the causes, but then what happens with homelessness is that there's an effect, and those conditions are exacerbated, and they might not have many of these issues and might simply just have had to flee because of violence, family violence. And, you know, 40% of our youth at the moment are fleeing their homes because of family violence. But what happens is that there's such a rejection around that, and then to be outside on the streets or couch surfing, there's such a lack of what the human nature needs, and that is, you know, to be supported and to be around people. So rejection is a huge one, and that's when the mental health conditions start to exacerbate, and the addiction and the substance abuse.
And Montana, can I ask you, you know, obviously life's looking great and great story to tell. How did it turn around? What was the moment for you that turned it all around?
Sorry, it's a tough question because I feel like it's really all thanks to my mum. I mean,
That's beautiful.
yeah, I'm lucky that I experienced homelessness with my mother, as a lot of our youth, I can't even imagine how scary it is for our homeless youth. But yeah, I mean, it was the strongest woman I know here that turned everything around for us.
Sharon, tell us a little bit about that story. What turned it around?
Well, I'd had experience with disadvantage in my own life, so I came from 3 generations at least of trauma in women, and so as a result I had a substance dependency for many years, and so I came back from that. So I really had to recall what that was, and you know, if I tried to quickly pin that down, developing self-awareness, I really needed to look at what was happening and take a really serious look at what was going on. From there, I had to find a why, like why did I need to do this? And you know, this was my why, it's my child. There's no other bigger why than your child, right? So that was my why and my reason to do that. Meditation, I started meditating, and I meditated for, you know, and I still do 30 to 40 minutes a day. And then lots of counsellors and support, a financial counsellor, you know, a psychologist, a counsellor, and the counsellor give you all the tools that you you need, such as CBT and ABC and the 3 C's and 6 R's.
All the letters.
All the letters. You know, so I wrote it down in my journal, and I did what I was instructed. And I guess lastly, I heard you mention gratitude in the morning, and so what we do is we actually do an accomplishments journal. So we've both studied neuroscience as a result of our journey, and so we now know that with meditation and with the brain, the limbic system is the part of the brain that sometimes we can't control. So if we complete an accomplishment journal every day, a little bit like a gratitude journal, that actually produces the dopamine so that we can aim for more of what it is that we want to accomplish. So it's not so much the goals, it's that we're achieving the goals that drives the dopamine in the brain.
Truly amazing. So, but then through all of this incredible work and that resilience that you mentioned, Montana, Sharon, creating new pathways, this is what you've started. Can you explain to us exactly what that is and how that's assisting disadvantaged people?
So creating new pathways is actually creating new neural pathways. So it's around neuroplasticity. That's why it's called creating new pathways. And we work one-on-one with disadvantaged people who are mandated to get counselling. And we provide them with counselling, psychotherapy, addictions counselling. It's all based on neurology or neurobiology. And as well as that, we also do presentations around the country together. So it's a mother and daughter, and we talk about our history and how we've come through this. And we do that with corporate and professional development seminars, so working with people who work with disadvantage, and the focus is on changing the way that people think through neurobiology.
You two have got to be 2 of the most inspiring souls I've ever met. I've got to say it. It is so beautiful to have you here. Where else can people get support apart from what you're wonderfully doing?
So we work with Melbourne City Mission here in Melbourne for youth homelessness, but there's a really good app called Ask Izzy. So Ask Izzy, IZZY, and with Ask Izzy, it's actually a mobile app that can be used on your phone, and you can pretty much locate any service immediately. And for anybody that's experiencing domestic violence, there's a feature on that where you can actually flip the app so that the person or the perpetrator doesn't actually know that you're accessing the app.
That is incredible. It's so powerful.
Yeah, organisations like yours, along with the Salvos, Blanket Patrol and many more, are doing such great work to support people experiencing homelessness. So go online now to find out how you can support them. Big thanks, Sharon and Montana. Really appreciate you sharing your story with us this morning.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having us.
Stick around, there's plenty more to come right here on the House of Wellness.